Cynthia adjusted her wig in the small mirror of her phone as she stood by the roadside waiting for Daniel. She had been dating Daniel for 8 years now, and today he had promised to take his mother to meet her father for the first time. As a modern city girl, Cynthia believed in presenting herself with confidence. She had made it clear to Daniel that she was not one of those girls who would let a man's family dictate how she should behave. To her, love was between two people, not an entire clan. Cynthia smiled to herself. She had waited long enough for this day. Then she heard the sound of a car. A sleek black Jeep slowed down in front of her. The sight made her heart dance. Cynthia smiled, flipping her hair as she reached for the front passenger door. But just as she touched the handle, she saw something that made her face twist in annoyance. An old woman was sitting in the front seat. She was small, frail, with a faded wrapper tied firmly around her chest and a simple headscarf covering her hair. She turned to look at Cynthia with tired but kind eyes. Cynthia's mood changed immediately. She frowned, folding her arms across her chest. "Madam, please shift to the back," she said, waving her hand dismissively like she was chasing a fly. The old woman blinked as if she hadn't heard properly. "I should what?" she asked, her voice soft but firm. Cynthia rolled her eyes. "I said move to the back. I sit in the front. My boyfriend is driving. That is my place." The old woman turned her head slowly, looking at Daniel, who had just stepped out of the car. His face had lost all its color. His mouth slightly open like someone who had just seen a ghost. His hands trembled as he shut the door. Before he could speak, Cynthia continued, her voice growing sharper. "I don't understand why old people like you always insist on front seats. Front seat is for young people. Please shift." Daniel swallowed hard. His heart was pounding. He looked at his mother, then at Cynthia, then back at his mother. His feet felt heavy like stones. "Cynthia, do you know who you're talking to?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Cynthia snapped her fingers. "And so, whether she's your mother or not, I am your wife-to-be, and I should be accorded the respect I deserve. Your mother should go to the back." The air around them grew thick. Even the breeze seemed to stop blowing. Daniel looked around and realized they were gathering an audience. Hawkers had paused. Passers-by had slowed their steps. Even a bus conductor, hanging from the door of a moving bus, shouted, "This is how family problems start eventually." Daniel took a deep breath. "It's just a seat. Can't you just sit at the back?" Cynthia scoffed. "Just a seat?" She tilted her head, eyes blazing. "So your mother is more important than me? The woman you claim you want to marry?" Daniel's jaw tightened. He glanced at his mother, who simply looked at him, silent and patient. "Cynthia, please, it's not a big deal. Just sit in the back this time." "No!" Cynthia snapped. "This is not how it works. I'm not like those girls who let their boyfriend's family push them around. If I'm marrying you, I deserve respect. Your mother should sit in the back." Daniel raised a hand, his voice low and pleading. "It's not about respect, Cynthia. It's just a seat. Please, let's not make a scene." Cynthia's nostrils flared. She placed her hands on her waist. "A scene? Who's making a scene? Either she moves, or I won't go with you. In fact, let me make it clear. If you don't tell her to go to the back, I will break up with you right here and now." The silence that followed was heavy. Daniel felt like his chest was tightening. His mother, still seated in the front, slowly turned to her son and spoke for the first time since the argument started. "Don't even try, Daniel. You want to tell me to leave the front seat because of your girlfriend? Daniel's heart raced. He was caught between two fires, both burning fiercely. His mother, the woman who had given him life, and Cynthia, the woman who had given him wealth and status. His hands felt cold. His throat was dry. He had to make a choice. But which one? You see, Cynthia's sharp attitude wasn't new. Long before the front seat drama, the signs had always been there, clear as day, loud as market women on a busy Monday morning. But Daniel had ignored them, brushing them aside like stubborn houseflies. Daniel's friends had seen it from the start. Bro, Cynthia is too proud, they told him. Open your eyes. But Daniel didn't listen. He always found a way to defend her. Cynthia never greeted them, never smiled at them. When they came over, she acted like they didn't exist. If they greeted her first, she would nod, barely. But if they said nothing, she would walk past them like they were invisible. If they don't greet me first, I won't greet them, she always said, flipping her hair. Cynthia wasn't joking. She had rich friends, and rich friends had rules. They told her that a woman must never lower herself for a man's friends. They will just turn you into a maid, they warned. You are the queen. Make sure you claim your territory. Don't let them think you're just another girl in his life, her best friend had told her. You're the one he's going to marry. Make sure they know it. And so, Cynthia never let herself get too close to Daniel's friends or family. She saw no reason to prove herself to them. In her mind, she was already at the top, and everyone else had to work to meet her there. One day, Daniel's friends came to visit. They knocked, stepped inside, and sat in the living room waiting for Daniel. Cynthia walked past them without a word. No greeting, no smile, nothing. It was as if the air was more important than them. Daniel came out of his room laughing. Guys, what's up? But his friends weren't laughing. They pulled him aside. Daniel, open your eyes, one of them said. If she treats us like this now, imagine how she will treat your family when you marry her. Daniel sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. She's from a wealthy family, he said. That's just how they behave. His friends shook their heads. And you think she will change? Daniel knew all this, but he kept telling himself, she'll change. It's just the way she was raised. But she never did. Daniel had tried to correct Cynthia many times. You should respect people, he told her one evening. It doesn't matter if they're rich or poor. But Cynthia only laughed, flipping her hair. I am from a rich family. No one controls me. She believed money made her untouchable. She moved through life like a queen, looking down on those who didn't have what she had. And his friends, they kept talking. Daniel, just let this girl go. Someone that is this proud as a girlfriend will definitely be something else when she became a wife. They always say, but Daniel can do just little. He can't force her. He can't talk too much. And worst of all, he can't let her go because if she goes with all he has. But his friends didn't understand. They didn't understand what secret is between Cynthia and Daniel. It wasn't just her upbringing that made her this way. It was the power dynamic in their relationship. Years ago, when Daniel first came to the city, life was tough. Very tough. Back then, he was nothing, a young man who had come to the city with big dreams but empty pockets. No house, no job, no connections, just hope. To survive, he started driving a taxi. Day and night, he drove a taxi, picking up strangers, listening to their stories, dropping them off at destinations that always seemed better than his own. Then, one day, he met her. It was a bright afternoon. the kind where the sun sat proudly in the sky, watching everything below. Daniel was parked outside a private university, waiting for passengers. A young lady in a designer handbag and expensive shoes walked up to his car and knocked on the window. "Are you for hire?" she asked, pushing her sunglasses up her nose. Daniel nodded. "Yes, madam." "Where are you going?" She mentioned the address, and he started the car. The ride was quiet at first, but then she asked, "What's your name?" "Daniel, madam." She nodded, looking at him closely, as if trying to read his life story on his face. Then, out of nowhere, she laughed. "You don't act like a normal taxi driver." Daniel frowned. "How do taxi drivers act?" She shrugged. "I don't know." "Rough, loud. You are too calm, too polite." Daniel chuckled. "Maybe I'm just different." She studied him for a moment and smiled. That was the beginning. Cynthia started requesting Daniel's taxi every time she needed a ride. And every time they talked, she asked about his life, his dreams, his struggles. He told her the truth, how he had come to the city with nothing but hope. And little by little, she started to like him. She liked his simplicity, his honesty, the way he spoke with wisdom beyond his years. One evening, after he dropped her off, she leaned against the car door and said, "I think I like you, Daniel." Daniel almost dropped his car keys. "Me?" She laughed. "Yes, you. Don't act so surprised." And just like that, a rich girl fell in love with a struggling taxi driver. Daniel couldn't believe his luck. A girl like Cynthia, loving a man like him. It felt like a dream, but he did not know that some dreams are actually nightmares waiting to unfold. Cynthia was not used to hearing the word no. As an only child, she always got what she wanted. If she liked something, she took it. If she wanted something, her father made it happen. And now, she wanted Daniel to have a better life. One evening, as she sat in the family lounge, she turned to her father. "Daddy, I want you to give Daniel a job in the company." Her father, a wealthy businessman with a sharp mind, raised an eyebrow. "Daniel? The taxi driver?" Cynthia nodded. "Yes, Daddy. He's hardworking, he's smart, and I know he will do well." Her father sighed, tapping his fingers on the armrest of his chair. "Cynthia, business is not about helping people because you like them. It's about choosing the best." She crossed her arms. "And I am telling you, Daniel is the best." Her father studied her for a moment, then sighed again. "Fine. I will give him a small position. Let's see what he can do." The next morning, Daniel stood in front of the company's tall glass building, staring in awe. Just yesterday, he had been a taxi driver. Today, he was an employee in one of the biggest companies in the city. He worked hard, arriving before everyone else and leaving last. He was determined to prove himself, and he did. Within months, his dedication caught the attention of the top executives. Within a year, he was promoted. From a driver, he became a supervisor. From a supervisor, he became the head of the company. People respected him now. He wore fine suits, drove expensive cars, and sat in meetings with important men. Soon, Daniel was no longer the struggling taxi driver Cynthia had fallen in love with. He was the head of the company. The same people who once ignored him now called him Sir. He had a new apartment, expensive suits, and a life he never thought possible. But with all his success, one thing remained the same: his loyalty to Cynthia. "Without me, you are nothing," she would say, flipping her hair. "I made you." Daniel felt indebted to her. If not for her, would he have come this far? She was the reason he had come this far. She had changed his life. And so, no matter what she did, no matter how she acted, Daniel always told himself one thing: I owe her everything. At first, Daniel thought he had everything a man could ever want: a great job, a beautiful woman, a life of comfort. But soon, he began to see the real Cynthia. Now that he was successful, she treated him like her property. Whenever he tried to make a decision, she was there to remind him, Daniel, don't forget who put you where you are today. If he spent time with friends, she would frown. I didn't lift you out of poverty so you could waste time with useless people. If he suggested something she didn't like, she would cross her arms and say, you wouldn't even be standing here if it weren't for me. At first, Daniel ignored it. He told himself it was just her way of talking, but as time passed, it became worse. One evening, Daniel's elder sister arrived. She had traveled from the village to visit her brother, excited to see how far he had come. She stepped into the house, her wrapper neatly tied, her face glowing with happiness. Daniel, my brother, you have done well, she said, hugging him tightly. Daniel smiled. Ah, sister, welcome. Cynthia sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She barely lifted her head. She mumbled a greeting, but it was so quiet it was almost swallowed by the air. Daniel's sister turned to her and smiled. Cynthia, how are you? Cynthia nodded, still looking at her phone. Fine. Daniel's sister glanced at Daniel, then back at Cynthia. She said nothing. Later that evening, Daniel pulled Cynthia aside. Please cook for my sister. She had a long journey. Cynthia let out a loud laugh. Cook? For your sister? She raised an eyebrow. She has hands. Let her cook for herself. Daniel's smile faded. Cynthia, she's a visitor. Cynthia flipped her hair. And so, did I invite her? If she is hungry, she knows where the kitchen is. Daniel sighed. That evening, he left the house and bought food for his sister. His sister ate quietly, shaking her head. She had seen enough. When she finished, she walked up to Cynthia. My dear, marriage is not only about love. It is also about respect. Cynthia frowned. I am not a slave, she snapped. Daniel's sister smiled sadly. She packed her bags and left that night without another word. Daniel sat on the couch, his head in his hands. First his friends, now his sister. The signs were getting clearer. But was he ready to see them? Back at the roadside, where the front seat incident was still happening, Daniel's mother still sat in the front seat, her hands folded on her lap. Her eyes met his, full of understanding, yet tinged with disappointment. Cynthia's glare pierced him from the other side, her arms crossed tightly, her foot tapping impatiently. Daniel let out a deep sigh. His heart felt heavy, like a stone tied to his chest. He turned to his mother. Mommy, please go to the back seat, he said softly. His mother looked at him, her eyes filled with something Daniel could not name. It was not anger. It was not disappointment. It was something deeper. She did not argue. His mother's face didn't change, but the weight of the request was heavy. After a moment, she nodded. If that's what you want, Daniel, she said quietly. She quietly opened the door, stepped out of the car, and moved to the back. Daniel's hands tightened on the steering wheel. He turned to her. Mommy, you know how things are, he said, his voice almost pleading. Cynthia's parents made me who I am today. I'm sorry. His mother only nodded. She did not speak. She did not need to. Cynthia's triumphant smirk was quick, and she wasted no time slipping into the front seat. As she adjusted the mirror and settled in, She barely noticed Daniel's mother climbing into the back. The silence in the car was thick, but Cynthia didn't seem to feel it. To her, this was how things should be. Her in the front, where she belonged. Daniel gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles turning white. He started the car, the engine's hum masking his inner turmoil. He couldn't look back. Not yet. The road stretched ahead, and he drove, saying nothing. In the rearview mirror, his mother sat still, her head turned slightly toward the window. Cynthia chatted about the day's plans as if nothing had happened. Little did she know, Daniel had other plans. Little did she know, things were about to get crazier. Daniel's grip tightened on the steering wheel. His heart felt heavy, like a load too big for his chest. He glanced at his mother through the rearview mirror. Her face was calm, but he knew what that meant. It was the calm before the storm. He swallowed hard. He knew what was coming. The car ride to Cynthia's father's house was silent. Daniel gripped the steering wheel tightly, his mind spinning. His mother sat quietly in the back seat, staring out of the window. She had not said a word since he told her to move, but Daniel could feel her silence. It was heavy. It sat in his chest like a stone. Cynthia, on the other hand, was smiling. She had won again. She had put Daniel's mother in her place. In her mind, she had proven that she came first. She scrolled through her phone, completely unaware of the storm building inside Daniel. His heart was not at peace. His mother had given him life. She had struggled for him, prayed for him, sacrificed for him, and today he had chosen someone else over her. Something inside him snapped. By the time they pulled into Cynthia's father's grand compound, Daniel had already made his decision. He parked the car, turned off the engine, and took a deep breath. Then, without hesitation, he reached into his pocket, pulled out the car key, and placed it on the table in front of Cynthia's father. His voice was steady, but firm. "Sir, I am done. I cannot disrespect my mother because of a wife." The words shook the room. Cynthia's smile faded. "What?" she asked, her voice sharp. Her father frowned, confused. "Daniel, what are you saying?" Daniel turned to his mother. For the first time since the incident, she looked at him, her tired eyes searching his face. "Mommy, I'm sorry," he said softly. "I forgot who I am. I forgot where I came from. But not anymore." Cynthia's hands tightened into fists. "Daniel, are you seriously making a scene over a stupid car seat?" Daniel exhaled deeply. He looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, he saw clearly the entitlement, the arrogance, the selfishness. This was the woman he had been fighting to marry? Slowly, he shook his head. "It's not about a seat, Cynthia. It's about respect, and you have none." Cynthia's father, now fully paying attention, raised an eyebrow. "What exactly happened?" he asked. But before Daniel could respond, his mother finally spoke. She sat up, adjusted her headscarf, and turned to Cynthia's father. And the moment he saw her face clearly, he froze. The moment Cynthia's father got a clear look at her face, his body stiffened. His eyes widened in shock. For a few seconds, he said nothing, just stared. Then, as if suddenly remembering himself, he shot up from his chair, knocking a pen off the table. His breathing grew heavy, and then, to everyone's shock, he bowed, a deep, respectful bow. "Madam, you?" he stammered, his voice unsteady. Cynthia and Daniel froze. Cynthia's eyes darted between her father and the old woman she had dismissed just moments ago. What was happening? Cynthia's father quickly straightened himself and motioned to a chair. Please, Ma, sit properly. I had no idea you were coming. If I had known, I would have prepared better. Daniel's mother said nothing. She simply nodded, her expression unreadable. Cynthia's heart pounded. She couldn't believe her eyes. Her father, her powerful, wealthy, respected father, was bowing to this poor old woman? She scoffed. Daddy, why are you acting like this? She's just Daniel's mother. Her father turned sharply, his eyes blazing. Shut up, he thundered. Cynthia flinched. Do you even know who this woman is? Her father continued, his voice filled with disbelief. Cynthia folded her arms. Yes, she's Daniel's mother, the same old woman who tried to take my place in the front seat today. Her father let out a long, disappointed sigh. He slowly sat back down and rubbed his forehead. Cynthia, he said, his voice lower now, that old woman is the reason you live in luxury today. Cynthia frowned. What are you talking about? Her father shook his head. This woman, Daniel's mother, is the real owner of all the companies you and I have been managing. She is the true boss of everything we have. The room fell completely silent. Cynthia's hands went cold. She looked at Daniel, then at his mother, then back at her father. That's not possible. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Her father's face was filled with regret. It is, and I am ashamed that you, my own daughter, disrespected the very woman who made our lives what they are today. Cynthia's breath quickened. Her chest tightened. Her world, her entire reality, was about to crumble. Cynthia's hands trembled. Her throat went dry. This had to be a joke. Daddy, what do you mean? She asked, her voice shaky. Her father exhaled deeply and leaned back in his chair. His face, once proud and confident, now looked burdened with guilt. Many years ago, he began slowly, I was not the man you know today. I was just a poor houseboy, working for a very wealthy family. Cynthia's heart pounded. A houseboy? Her father nodded. Yes, I worked in their home, cleaned their floors, and ran errands. But I was lucky because the madam of the house was kind. She and her husband owned a massive business empire, bigger than anything I had ever seen. Cynthia's father glanced at Daniel's mother. That woman sitting before you, Cynthia, she was that madam. Cynthia gasped. Her father, her great, powerful father, had been nothing but a servant to this woman. Then, how did you get the company? She whispered. Her father's eyes darkened with sadness. When her husband died, she wanted to step away for a while. She did not want her son to grow up as a spoiled rich boy who had everything handed to him. She wanted him to learn the value of struggle, of hard work. He rubbed his hands together as if trying to wipe away an invisible stain. She trusted me, Cynthia. She told me to take care of the company while she focused on raising her son. She gave me power over everything, and I promised her I would manage it well until the time was right. Cynthia shook her head violently. No, this can't be true. Her father looked at her, his face lined with disappointment. It is true, Cynthia. You, your mother, and I, we have all lived in comfort because of her generosity. Everything we own, everything we are today, came from her kindness. Cynthia's knees felt weak. The air in the room felt heavy, suffocating. She had called this woman poor. She had insulted her. She had humiliated her in public. And now she realized this same woman had built the life she enjoyed. She turned to Daniel, her lips trembling. That means, that means you are Daniel's father's heir, the rightful owner of everything. Her father nodded. Yes, Daniel is the real owner of the company, not me, and definitely not you. Cynthia's world began to crumble around her. Everything she had believed was a lie. Cynthia stood frozen. Her fingers felt numb. Her legs refused to move. Her mind replayed every moment, the way she had dismissed Daniel's mother, the arrogance in her voice, the look of pain on the old woman's face. She had called her poor. She had refused to sit at the back seat. She had made Daniel choose. And now she realized she had been looking down on the very woman who made her life what it was. Slowly, she turned to Daniel, her lips trembling. Daniel, you are the real heir? Daniel didn't answer. He didn't need to. Cynthia's father had already said it. Everything, the company, the wealth, the power, belonged to Daniel, not to her father, not to her. The man she had always treated as beneath her was the true owner of it all, and she had disrespected him. Her stomach twisted. The weight of her pride pressed down on her chest. She had been a fool, a complete fool. Everything she thought she had, everything she thought was hers, was slipping away. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. For the first time in her life, Cynthia felt small. Cynthia dropped to her knees. Daniel, please, I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know, she cried. Tears rolled down her cheeks. The confident, arrogant woman from earlier was gone. In her place was someone desperate, broken, and afraid. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I will change. I will respect your mother. I will be better. Just, please, don't leave me. But Daniel had already made up his mind. He stared at her, his face calm, his heart steady. Cynthia, he said, his voice firm. It's too late. She shook her head violently. No, it's not. We've been together for years, Daniel. You love me. I know you do. Daniel sighed. Love is not enough, Cynthia. Love without respect is nothing. Cynthia's hands trembled. Please, please don't do this. But Daniel took a step back. I cannot marry a woman who has no respect for my family. The words hit Cynthia like thunder. She had won every battle in the past, but this time she had lost. The room was silent. The truth had been revealed. The damage had been done. Daniel's mother slowly turned to Cynthia's father, her eyes calm but sharp. You failed your daughter, she said simply. Cynthia's father lowered his head. He had no defense, no excuse. He knew she was right. I gave her everything, he murmured. Everything except the one thing that mattered most, humility. He sighed deeply, rubbing his forehead. I thought I was protecting her, but instead, I created a woman who believes the world owes her something. Daniel's mother shook her head. Now, she has learned that money and arrogance cannot buy respect. Cynthia, still on her knees, turned to her father. Daddy, please talk to him. I don't want to lose Daniel. But her father didn't look at her. Instead, he stood up and straightened his suit. His voice was cold and final. Come with me. We are leaving. Cynthia's eyes widened in shock. What? No, I want to stay. I want to fix this. Her father didn't argue. He simply turned and walked towards the door. Cynthia sat frozen for a moment, then scrambled to her feet. Daddy, please, she pleaded, grabbing his arm. But he gently pulled away. If you had been polite to people, you would have been the wife of the CEO today. But you have lost that chance forever. And with that, he walked out. Cynthia stood in the middle of the room, her heart pounding, her world crashing. She turned to Daniel one last time. "Daniel, please," she whispered. But he didn't answer. Instead, he turned to his mother, took her hand, and together they walked out, heads held high, dignity intact. Cynthia felt the tears rushing to her eyes. She wanted to run after him, to beg one last time, but her legs wouldn't move, because deep down she already knew. It was over. She had spent years believing she was better than everyone. She had looked down on his friends, his sister, and worst of all, his mother. And now she had lost the best man she could ever have. No amount of begging could fix this. No amount of regret could turn back time. She had learned her lesson, but it was too late. I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, please like the video, comment what you learned from the tale, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more enchanting tales just like this one. Thank you.